Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and taking interest in our Capstone project. Mindsense is a student and youth-led project aimed to enhance youth engagement and counseling by way of measurement-based care. So before we get into it, I quickly want to introduce the team that made this project possible. Pictured here is myself, Izzar, you. We are all translational research master's students here at the University of Toronto, and we'll be presenting our work for you today. As well, I want to thank our work, our program supervisors, project advisory committee, and our partners at Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario. So this presentation is more of a visual representation of our formal report we put together. So feel free to scan the QR code and follow along with the report if you'd like. We'll just leave it here for a second. Okay. So with that, this will be our agenda for today. So what is our project all about? Well, to explain this, we've made a short video about the Mindsense project, and we hope you enjoy.
This is Marion. She's 17, on the soccer team and yearbook committee, and is trying to keep her marks up for university. Marion's also been seeing a mental health counselor for the last couple months. She thinks it's been helping, but it's kind of hard to tell. Her counselor always asks her to fill out these questionnaires. They don't take too long. They're usually just a few questions about how her mental health has been over the last few weeks. He says these are part of something called measurement-based care, which involves using measurement tools like questionnaires to guide treatment decisions. That sounds pretty cool to Marion. It makes sense that measuring her mental health over time allows her counselor to track how she's doing and tailor her treatment accordingly. But the process isn't exactly engaging. She fills out these questionnaires, hands them to her counselor, and that's about it. She wonders how much more interesting her sessions would be if she was more involved in the measurement. She could get answers to her questions like, what's being measured in the first place? What does it mean? How does it affect her daily life? That would make Marion feel so much more involved in her mental health care. Searching for a more active role, Marion turns to the Mindsense team. Mindsense is a student-led project that is on a mission to develop a tool to help youth feel more involved in their measurement-based care. The goal is that this will make youth feel more engaged in treatment and more empowered to make decisions about their mental health. This tool will be co-designed with youth who have lived experience of accessing mental health care, just like Marion. Tools made by youth for youth have a better chance of being used because they can address barriers that actually matter to young people. Then when the tool is developed, we'll measure if it actually works. Does it make youth feel more involved in their measurement-based care? Do youth feel more engaged in treatment? This will be measured with a survey and focus groups with youth age 14 to 25 across Ontario. Engaging youth this way can lead to better health outcomes, increased buy-in and sustainability of measurement-based care, enhanced relevance, and most importantly, addresses the ethical need to involve youth in the decisions that affect them. Marion can't wait to work with the Mindsense team to build this tool and improve the way youth are involved in mental health care journeys.
So Integrated Youth Services, or IYS, is a government-supported pan-Canadian movement that aims to build effective youth-focused and integrated services. It's not so much seen as a model, but rather represented by these key principles. A youth-centered approach. IYS is designed and developed with the input from young people and caregivers, ensuring services are tailored to youth needs and preferences. Integrated service delivery. IYS sites act as a central hub where you can access a range of services in one location. Easy accessibility. IYS aims to provide rapid, barrier-free access to services. Early intervention. So the focus here is on providing support early on to prevent situations from worsening and to promote overall well-being. Finally, continuity of care. IYS bridges the gap between child and adult services, offering continuous support throughout the critical ages of 12 to 25. As you can see, there are many IYS sites around the country. Today we'll be focused on IYS in Ontario, provided by Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario, or YWHO. So YWHO currently serves 35 communities across the province with the goal of bringing the right services to youth and their families at the right time and in the right place. What makes them stand out is their current push to implement evidence-based practices to ensure that youth are receiving the best care possible according to scientific literature and real-time data, which we know putting numbers to and quantifying health outcomes in the field of mental health research is invaluable. So this is where measurement-based care, or MBC, comes in. It's defined by the use of validated measures to inform and tailor care delivery and track health outcomes over time. It's evidence-based practice. In addition to facilitating communication, providing real-time data, and improving health outcomes, the key factor of measurement-based care is to promote youth involvement and collaborative decision-making. So despite the benefits and leadership efforts, MBC is not routinely implemented at YWHO. So this doesn't really make that much sense because common challenges identified in the literature like governance support, leadership and organizational buy-in, digital measurement-based care platforms, and training supports all exist at YWHO currently. So what's the problem? To find out, we consulted the literature and some experts in the field. We uncovered that there's an assumption youth don't understand or want to participate in MBC. So we asked you, what's wrong with MBC? And this is what we heard. They get the concept of measurement-based care. They actually like being able to track changes and how it can inform their care delivery, but no one is involving them in the process. So from here, we understood that the problem lies in youth who feel disengaged with integrated mental health services, needing increased decision-making, but are facing a lack of involvement in measurement-based care. So as a team, we said to answer, how can we create a resource to enhance treatment engagement and increase the uptake of MBC at YWHO? We anticipate this resource would have three major impacts. One, bridging the knowledge gap between measurement-based care and shared decision-making. Two, increasing youth involvement in MBC. And three, improving overall health outcomes in young people.
Great, thanks, Brianna. So now I'm going to walk us through the process or the methods of our capstone over the year. Now, our entire process was guided by a co-design methodology. So co-design is a term that refers to co-creating tools and resources with people with lived experience. So this makes sure that their needs can actually be addressed because they have a seat at the table in making the tools. And Origin is a youth mental health research institute in Australia. They've identified core principles of co-designing with young people, which include valuing lived and professional experience equally, sharing decision-making power, using a design-led process, and using design methods to support involvement. So we built our project framework around these principles, and this can be thought of in three phases: planning, creating the project plan and establishing the team; co-design, actually developing the resources with youth advisors; and evaluation, measuring the tool's potential for addressing the problem that Brianna shared earlier. And within the planning phase, here you can see our primary activities. We started with a detailed project plan. Of course, knowing this would likely change, but making sure we're being thoughtful and intentional about how we engage with youth advisors. Then we received approval from the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, the Quality Project Ethics Review Committee there, or CUPR, and began building our team of youth advisors. And the entire project would not have been possible without this youth team. Ariana, Afreen, Brianna, Haley, James, Miriam, and Radmi were seriously the most brilliant team of young people. Such a pleasure working with them, and I learned so much. Which leads us to our co-design phase. So the first priority here was establishing a team atmosphere. We had to make sure that we're all on the same page about values and comfortability with each other. So we spent plenty of time building these relationships. Then we could begin designing. So we called these workshops. I'll share more about that in a second, but the other component of this phase was getting youth's input on the actual evaluation material to make sure that it measures what's important to them in a youth-friendly way. So here you can see you will see a timeline of our co-design process. When we set up our youth team, we had shared a handbook with a bunch of helpful information about their role as an advisor, and then focused workshop 1 on building these team norms and brainstorming only bad ideas, which was what we call this little game where we just came up with the most outrageous ideas. I'll share some on the next slide. Workshop 2 was focused on extracting some real ideas from the brainstorming activity and working together to decide how we want to tackle the problem. So we weighed the pros and cons of each and chose a path together. We had some optional working meetings for those that wanted a bit more of a hands-on role in drafting the tool, but then workshop 3 was all about refining the tool and shaping it up for evaluation. A quick shout out to Lee and Mahalia and Hannah at YWHO and CAMH for making all of this co-design work possible. Here are some screenshots from some co-design activities. On the left, you can see our group norms or shared values. In the middle is our only bad ideas brainstorming activity, some really good ones there. I think I see replace therapists with toddlers in suits. I really like that. And then on the right, we can see how we went about receiving the feedback for each part of the tool. Okay, so finally, the third phase of our project was evaluation. We shared a virtual survey and disseminated that throughout YWHO and CAMH youth networks. We hosted a focus group and we evaluated our youth advisor experiences. Like I said, the survey was shared throughout YWHO and CAMH's youth networks. Youth were welcome to participate as long as they identified as a young person with lived experience accessing mental health support in Ontario. The purpose of the survey was to quantify youth's pre-existing knowledge of MBC, their experiences engaging in support, and their perspectives on the tool's potential for use. So the survey respondents were also invited to participate in a focus group. This was mainly to now qualify their perspectives and elaborate on what they shared in the survey. They also shared lots of great feedback on how the tool could be improved, which was all implemented in the final version. And lastly, it's so important that we actually practice what we preach. So we made sure to evaluate our youth advisors' experiences on the project. We did this with a standardized assessment called the Patient and Public Engagement Evaluation Tool, or PAPET. It has different sections to share your thoughts on communications and support, how much you felt like you could share your views and perspectives, whether you felt like you had an impact on the project, and overall project strengths and areas of improvement. And after all that, here's what we made. We co-designed My MBC Pocket Guide, which is a pocket-sized book that youth who access services at any YWHO hub across the province can receive before they start MBC. So feel free to scan this QR code to check out the final proof. Happy to share after our presentation too. But in a nutshell, it has all sorts of info on common terminology, benefits of MBC, your rights, some puzzles and memes, and a fun way to gamify the MBC process to make it worth their time. So now I'm going to pass it over to Izzar to share what we heard in the evaluation activities.
Thank you, Matt. I will now discuss our results, focusing specifically on what our youth shared about MBC and their experiences with the Pocket Guide. As Matt mentioned earlier, a virtual survey was distributed throughout YWHO's Youth Advisory Networks and CAMH's National Youth Action Council. In total, we received 20 complete responses. We can start by looking at questions regarding their previous experiences with MBC. When asked how familiar they are with the concept of MBC and if they had personally used MBC in counseling before, the youth were mostly familiar with the concept. However, their experiences using MBC were mixed. When asked about their engagement in counseling and whether their input is valued in decision-making, youth expressed mixed responses. Now moving on to questions regarding the Pocket Guide. When asked about the potential use of the Pocket Guide, the overall feedback from the youth was positive. And as you can see here in the data, a significant number of youth said it would help them understand MBC, make them more interested in MBC, and want them to become involved in decisions. When asked about their willingness to use the Pocket Guide, 80% of the youth indicated that they were either very willing or somewhat willing to incorporate it into their own counseling journeys. As Matt mentioned earlier, youth who completed the survey were also asked if they would like to participate in the focus group. We had many youth show interest. However, due to scheduling conflicts, only 6 youth were able to attend the focus group. In this focus group, youth shared many thoughts about the Pocket Guide, and in the next few slides, we'll actually take a look at some of their feedback. So many youth felt that the Pocket Guide effectively used colors, graphics, and layout in a youth-friendly way. Some suggested design improvements, such as using brighter colors to make it more engaging. And you can actually read some of the direct quotes here on the right-hand side. Some youth expressed their willingness to use the Pocket Guide because they found it easy to use and interactive. Some youth suggested that the Pocket Guide could improve their understanding of MBC by including examples of tools and explaining how goal setting and MBC interact. Many youth felt that the Pocket Guide could play a key role in giving them a sense of agency in their counseling journeys. In fact, one youth suggested it could be improved by clearly stating the benefits of answering all the questions of a given MBC tool. Many youth found the Pocket Guide empowering due to its youth-centered focus on MBC, noting that the co-design process increased their trust in the resource. And I'll actually take a moment to read a direct quote. It's not something the therapist wants me to fill to show that they're doing the job. It's for me. Now let's shift our attention to the PAPET data. As Matt mentioned earlier, their survey was administered to evaluate the effectiveness and impact of youth engagement throughout the project. A total of 6 out of 7 youth advisors shared their experiences. And as you can see in the data, we had a very positive engagement throughout the project. I'll now address some takeaways. Starting with limitations, we recognize that more work is possible. The scope of this project focused on quality improvement within YWHO, so future research projects should consider larger sample size to ensure more comprehensive data, longer timelines to capture more detailed insights, and greater diversity to include a wide range of perspectives. Transitioning from the limitations, some key takeaways of the project include meaningful engagement is essential for successful outcomes. Developing a co-design strategy is crucial to involve youth effectively. Evaluating youth's co-design experiences helps identify areas for improvement. Using youth-friendly engagement techniques ensures better participation. Implementing a continuous feedback loop keeps the process dynamic and responsive. Celebrating milestones and success fosters motivation and acknowledges progress. And one key takeaway I'd like to highlight, which isn't on the list, but is in the book, is in our report, is the importance of understanding youth beyond assumptions. This means avoiding pre-assumptions about their preferences. And for a quick example, during the development of the Pocket Guide, we initially assumed that youth would prefer an online app. However, after speaking with them, we discovered that they all wanted a physical version as it was more tangible.
So where does that leave us, and what future directions will the Mindsense project take? The first step will be distributing the MyNBC Pocket Guide provincially through YWHO hubs. This will come with the creation and distribution of a service provider companion guide to inform the use of the Pocket Guide in practice. Upon provision of the Pocket Guide, we aim to adapt this resource to local and cultural contexts in order to meet the unique needs of youth in different communities. And with that, we will then consider running pilot trials to better understand the Pocket Guide's effectiveness and broaden the knowledge to the scientific community. We'd like to end off by emphasizing that we have an ethical imperative to meaningfully involve youth in healthcare decisions that affect them. This was a major driving factor for our team in doing this work because we all related to the significance of this in our personal endeavors. And as they say, nothing about us without us. We'd like to express our gratitude to the following individuals and organizations for their continuous support and contributions: to our youth advisors, Efrain, Ariana, Brianna, Haley, James, Miriam, Bradmeet, and all other youth who shared their lived expertise, our TRP supervisors, our YWHO partners, Joe and Deb, our PAC members, our TRP community members, the YWHO Provincial Office, and the McCain Center. Thank you. And thank you to all of you for being here today.
Thank you.